So our next panel, this one is a panel, I won't mess it up again, Priya, is on gambling and gaming. And gambling is, of course, sometimes what my wife accuses me of doing from an entrepreneurial standpoint. If you looked at my crypto portfolio, it's definitely gambling because I'm not winning very much. But with that, Ross, if you will come up and get the rest of your panel up here, again, on gambling and gaming.
There's a way to.
Is there the plug-in? Is this? Oh. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Ross Myers. I am the Director of Business Development for the Government Blockchain Association. From the private sector, I am the co-founder and a director of the Gaming Benefits Corporation. We focus on corporate social responsibility and nonprofit fundraising integrity. This morning, we're here to talk about gambling, gaming, and guilds, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have on our panel Tara Sue Myers. She is also a founder and director of the Gaming Benefits Corporation. Mark Wasser, 30-year technologist, AI, et cetera. I will let him expand on it. And Connor Riley, recent graduate of VCU and self-proclaimed digital asset nerd. So with that being said, you guys have at it.
Yes, sir.
And gals have it.
Yeah, gals and guys. So first off, I want to thank, of course, Priya and Shiv, because this is the sustainability conference, and these individuals were the first members that reached out to Ross and I when we joined or were recruited by Gerard in the spring, I think, of 2020 it was. And of course, Shiv and Priya are focused on digital ID management, and we've always felt that digital ID was the most essential component to blockchain, because without what you see here on our screen, power, access, security, what good is blockchain or any app? So I just wanted to recognize this sustainability conference, and what we're going to discuss in gaming is a sustainable model, or what is not sustainable, as we'll talk about the ugly aspects. So the U.S. gaming marketplace is quite broad, actually, and it's expanded significantly. And as an internet-based technology, it's quite interesting to know that the expansion of gaming in the U.S. online has been a little bit quiet behind sportsbook. So you may be aware that many states have adopted sportsbook over the last year to fill their empty coffers, right? They kind of lean on this vice, some folks refer it to support it. And then the state-sponsored lottery, it tends to go, the dollars go places we don't know or understand. While it's good that we come together for perhaps a state lottery, a game to help educate our youth, the bad is that it doesn't always make it there, and the ugly is that we don't always actually know where it went. You're familiar with the casino industries, the tribal industries, your Harrah's, your Vegas, your Atlantic City. It's great that people can go and have fun and gamble, but there are obviously major pitfalls with problem gambling and KYC and money laundering. So at the end of the day, what we're looking at is how do we make the snake eat its own tail with the gambling marketplace? This is what's happened over the last year. By the online raffle marketplace, and I'd like to focus on online because blockchain connects through our internet technology that we have to expand across the country to be in service to the organizations that take advantage of gaming, which you might be surprised to know that in the U.S., nonprofits, particularly veteran service organizations, they are licensed to participate in games of chance. So this is kind of the good in gaming, that if you're a nonprofit, you can have a game of chance and take advantage of what casinos have known for years, that the house always wins, right? And come in and be supportive of your mission through these fun games. And I'm going to show this couple slides. I'm going to pass it off to Connor. But I find that a lot of people don't know, or Mark, either one, I find that people don't really understand that veteran service organizations hold this eminent role. If you look at all the registered nonprofits who have licenses to game in the U.S., you'll find many Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Legions, and other on that list. And this is important because those organizations, they are the bridge between us as taxpayers and the federal government. We in this country, and I apologize for any foreigners that this is very US-focused discussion right here on this panel, but I think it resonates globally. Here in the United States, the VA and the Department of Defense take up most of our dollars, our tax dollars here, okay? So creating and taking care of veterans is our biggest expense. And the role of a veteran service organization, these nonprofits, is actually to enroll veterans into the VA healthcare system. And this way we understand the protracted cost of war. But of course, VSOs are focused on youth development and national security, enrollment into the VA healthcare system, which is woefully inept. And then of course, they're licensed to participate in something as exciting and even dangerous as charitable gaming. So we are the gaming work group. Our members, Mark, myself, Ross, and we have other members. When we started the gaming work group, we immediately identified some gaming-related projects, and we focused on LMS and esports and fundraising for the GBA through gaming regulatory technology that we will implement within the GBBP or a derivation thereof. And of course, this is our work group project. It's called Legion STEAM. We've identified esports as an LMS training through drone, which makes a lot of sense in the military community where they're already training with drones. And esports provides a unique way of doing fundraising and also, of course, implementing our own online raffle programs. So this is skill-based gaming, potentially at its best, because our initiative with the drone training is for emergency management services, et cetera. So that's just an overview of the gaming work group and what we're working to accomplish in our projects and programs. And so let's go ahead and get into the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So,
here's the bad now.
thank you. So I've always wondered why the gaming work group is actually only one work group, because we actually really do three things. The first thing that Tara Sue mentioned is that we're bringing blockchain to gambling and charitable gaming. And the primary purpose there is to basically simplify it, reduce friction, and very importantly, facilitate regulation. Gambling needs to be regulated. It would be great if it's regulated more, but it's also it's severely impactful to require regulation. Blockchain could actually make that very easy, and that's something that hopefully all of our representatives are listening to. This certainly doesn't involve really cryptocurrency in any real fashion. It doesn't involve cryptonomics. It's just straight US dollars, and it's a great true use case for blockchain. The second thing we tend to do is what Tara Sue mentioned in terms of the esports. That's definitely gaming. The third thing that we do are the blockchain-based so-called play-to-earn games. And these very much do rely upon cryptonomics and everything else, and that's what Connor will be covering.
Yeah, you can go up here, Connor.
Hello. So I'm going to be talking about gaming guilds. Can I get a show of hands of people who've heard of like play to earn games like Axie Infinity? These games where people are quote unquote making a living playing games. We're going to talk about what they are and if they're actually sustainable or not. So what is play to earn? So it's this phenomenon where people are making money, making a real living playing video games by completing in-game tasks. But the caveat is in order to participate in these blockchain games, you need in-game items, which are NFTs, and you have to buy these up front. So it requires capital up front, which excludes some players who can't afford these in-game items up front. And then the rewards are not paid out in dollars. They're paid out in these in-game native tokens, which are made up by the games themselves. So in order to be converted into like real world utilities, they have to be sold for dollars, which puts downward pressure on our tokens, as we'll see. So as I mentioned earlier, the barriers to playing some of these games are the upfront cost of the NFTs, which exclude people, and then the NFTs are then put to work, utilized to earn these in-game currencies. And this is a picture of Axie Infinity. So these three different characters are all NFTs, which you have to buy on an open marketplace like OpenSea, and then you can connect those to your wallet and then play the video games there. So then what are guilds? So gaming guilds were created out of the opportunity where there's all these people that wanted to play these games but couldn't because they couldn't afford to buy the NFTs to play them. So smart people who accumulated a lot of these NFTs, they can only use one at a time to play the video game. So they realized, I have all these NFTs that could be, earning money. They're just sitting dormant. They're basically useless right now. Well, what if I rent them out to people who have the time to play these video games but don't have the necessary upfront resources to buy the NFTs? So it's basically connecting idle assets with those who have quote unquote idle time to play the games. So it's eliminating the barriers to entry to playing the games. And as we've seen over the past 2 years, the majority of these people in the gaming guilds are people from third world countries, predominantly the Philippines. That was kind of one of the major headlines. So most guilds are structured as DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, where they have different structures. They have like community managers, and then within the guilds, there'll be like a separate group for this game, that game, and then there's like leaders, and managers, people who run like operational stuff. It's an organization structure coordinating people. So there's a lot of different things going on. And then, so the revenues are usually, this is like average, 70% will go to the players with the idle time who are renting out the NFTs, and then 30% will go back to the guild, partially which will be used to reinvest to buy more NFTs. It'll be used to pay out the guild members, the managers, and really just to scale operations and keep growing. So this all leads to the question, is this really sustainable? And I would argue not really, because these are all zero-sum games, closed-end economies, where whenever someone is making money, there has to be someone on the other end losing money, because there's no real value creation. So like I said earlier, these people, they're earning money by being paid out in these in-game currencies, but in order to actually see the tangible benefits of their work, they have to sell it for dollars. So it's like, where is this demand coming for the in-game currencies? And quite frankly, there isn't any. There's just sell pressure. As you can see, this is the token SLP, which people were earning in Axie Infinity. So I'll kind of like break down that. So people, they would buy these Axies, the NFTs, to earn SLP, and then they would sell the SLP for dollars. So as the price of SLP was going up initially, because there was like this, early 2021, there was this, whole frenzy where everything was kind of up only. It was kind of like a speculative mania. So like the prices of Axes kept going up because the in-game currency was going up. So people were making more money. But as things kind of reached an equilibrium and there wasn't this mania anymore, it's like the price of SLP, as you can see in the graph, just kept crashing because there was no one speculating on it anymore. The only people that were interacting with it were the people that were selling it because they were earning it from the in-game the games. So then as the price of SLP kept dropping, the price of the actual Axes, the NFTs, dropped too, because the demand for Axes is a function of how much can I earn using them to get SLP. So as SLP is worth less, that naturally means that the price of Axes are going to become less. So it's not like a Ponzi scheme in the like Bernie Madoff sense where it's like deliberate defraud of investors, but it leverages like Ponzonomics because it requires more and more people to enter the system for people to actually be making money. But on the flip side, for everyone making money, there's someone losing money. So in order for it to be sustainable, there need to be like novel tokenomics where, it's all just economics in the day, supply and demand. So the supply was, hyperinflating basically with no real demand. There needs to be some mechanisms I don't have the answers to, but where demand can outpace supply issuance so that there can be, like an equilibrium where there's actual value being created, where there's like token burns, but no one has really been able to create that yet. Part of why I'm optimistic as well is, AAA games like the games we see on PlayStations, Xboxes, those take years to make. This whole new play to earn thing is very new. I mean, all these games, they're not fun at all. If you ask people to play them, they're not fun. They only play them to make money. And no one's making money anymore, so no one's really even playing the video games anymore. But I mean, as we saw, like Microsoft acquired Activision, there's a whole bunch of other like mergers and acquisitions. So as more of the big players get into this space, I think we'll see a lot of cool things. But for like probably the next year or so, when these games are being developed, it'll probably be very dry and boring in this space. But I think it's only the beginning.
So Connor did an excellent job of giving us an overview of what the common wisdom is in the play-to-earn gaming industry. But of course, you always have to be careful of common wisdom. The top two games are, as Connor mentioned, Axie Infinity, which is basically similar to the Pokemon card game, plus a good amount. The second place, or maybe first place, I've lost track, they shift, is Splinterlands, which is very similar to Magic the Gathering. And fundamentally, as all the old people in the audience will tell you, everything old is new again. A lot of the answers, again, actually come by looking at history, looking at the economics of existing things, and you can actually do or make a lot of predictions. So I'd actually like to introduce myself in my third profession. Most of you know me as a blockchain guy. A lot of you know me as an AI guy. I'm also a professional gamer. The GBA is a volunteer organization. I make my money these days on Splinterlands. Splinterlands has something like 250,000 active players. I am a top 30 tournament winnings type person. I pull down about, that much money from tournaments. And they actually do give a good amount of tournaments. I mean, you can win easily, well, not easily. Prizes run for the top 30 on the biggest tournaments from $200 to $1,000 for a tournament that basically costs me an hour of time. So it's a great way to actually make a living. I'm making more currently than I've made in my life. However, the reason why I'm actually making money is because I'm a top 10 single-player investor, not counting members of the Splinterland organization. the employees. And really, as Connor pointed out, the problem with these games currently is they require incredible investments. I got lucky. I got into Splinterlands early. Last year, Splinterland's in-game assets went up by a factor of 45. After the crypto bloodbath of the last 6 months, it's only up about by a factor of 20. This is awful. You know,
You're joking.
well, I'm teasing in terms of only 20 times. When you get involved in play to earn, so-called gaming, a much better way to get involved is invest to earn. In a lot of ways, it's very similar to angel investing. Most of these games are going to fail. Most of them are going to fail because an inadequate understanding of the tokenomics of what it takes for it to be sustainable. And hopefully, we haven't driven away our regulator audience, because the difference between sustainable and Ponzi is a very, very narrow difference. And I also have a few comments for the regulators, because as a professional player, Congress has actually forced me to move my business overseas with some ill-advised proposed legislation. I literally cannot be a player in the United States if some of this legislation goes through, and I'll cover that slightly later. So, play to earn or play to invest games are really a dichotomy. The first one is the difference between play to earn, where you actually have to spend effort. You've actually got a paying job, and it pays based on performance. So you have to be at least a reasonably good player. As an investor, it's a passive investment. You spend money on the NFTs, you give the NFTs to the players earn money, they give you, 30% take, and on top of that, your NFTs go up in value in the long term. Of course, it's like standard cryptocurrency in the stock market. It goes up, it goes down. Again, oh, it's horrible that there's a 60% bloodbath, but it's going to go back up again. As long as you're in for the long term and you can afford it, which most investors can, you're good to go. What makes a sustainable game, and this isn't true of many games in the blockchain space, is that people are willing to pay for fun and entertainment. The way in which I got into blockchain gaming was Splinterlands was fun. It counted against my entertainment budget, and it was helpful that I had a crypto slush fund that, the wife really didn't keep track of. And then, and I sat there at one point that Splinterland's assets were down 50%, and I'm sitting there going, oh crap, I hope my money comes back. But then again, it was my entertainment budget, so it really didn't critically matter to me. So I was one of those very fortunate individuals who blindly stumbles into a fantastically awesome investment for another reason. A great example is to go back to Magic the Gathering. You can't play to earn on Magic the Gathering unless you're a Pro Tour player. And, beyond about the top 10 to 20, there is no way that you can make a living. Money does come into Magic the Gathering, however. Everybody pays for cards. It's, their entertainment budget, so money is coming into the system, so Wizards of the Coast can develop new expansions, so they can pay for tournaments, and it's eminently sustainable. I mean, it's been around for quite some time now. It's also a great investment. I was in from very close to the beginning. I had a friend who offered me a couple of the Alpha Moxes. I felt really bad and told him to keep them, and he used them to pay for his kids' education. So this is
Sorry,
what
what
you...
is an Alpha Moxes?
So an Alpha Mox, from the very, very first version of Magic the Gathering, they are overpowered cards. And this is part of the reason why Magic the Gathering tends to move older cards into less populated tournaments, because the oldest cards very often aren't balanced. And many, many people have heard of a Black Lotus, which sells for insane amounts of money. I don't even want to quote what it's up to. Last I heard, it was only $300,000 for something that came out of a pack of cards. Moxes are close behind. And as I said, it increased in value enough. He's the same age I am, and as I said, his Moxes paid for his child's college education. So Magic the Gathering is a good investment. This is why Splinterlands is also a good investment. You can't really lose money, and it's a sustainable ecosystem. As long as it's fun, as long as you have money coming in that's thought of as entertainment, and it's enough to also satisfy the play-to-earn people, you're not going to have a problem. The problem comes about when people try and play tokenomics on stupid games and sell people on fear, uncertainty, and desire, and convince people that their game is good enough, that their NFTs are going to massively increase in value. And this is also where they're forever producing in-game currency. The most important thing to look at in a play-to-earn game, if you want to be a player, is burn, not earn. And what that is that there have to be sinks for in-game currency. There have to be ways in which in-game currency disappears from the system. Part of it is buying new NFTs. A lot of it can be tournament entry fees. A lot of it can be buying rights to future things. But you have to keep it balanced. You really can't have people able to suck a lot of value out of the system. It has to match the dollars going into the system. And this is the point that most of the play-to-earn games miss. There's a very typical profile of this type of play-to-earn game. Someone announces that they're going to develop a game. They sell NFTs for a pretty hefty price. Somewhere 6 months, a year, 2 years later, they come out with a game that's really not that fun to play, but it gets you tokens, it gets you their currency, and you can trade this for money. The early people may or may not be able to get their initial investment out, but a lot of people decide to, hold their NFTs to invest. And the first thing that the NFTs do on virtually every game is they crash. They're going to crash to about 5 to 10% of their initial value. It's not a good way to make money getting in early unless you're absolutely positive that it's going to be a great game or that it's exceptionally well backed and eventually it will be a good game. Some of the games that are coming out have development teams much larger even than something like World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft would be an awesome blockchain game. They have in-game assets, they have a great black market going, good players can sell their acquired treasure, their swords and everything else. There's no reason why that's not immediately transferable to a blockchain-based play-to-earn game. The same is also true of Magic the Gathering. I have no clue why Magic the Gathering didn't move over 3 years ago. There are several examples of sustainable, very profitable blockchain games. They just seem to have missed an opportunity. At any rate, the last thing that I wanted to go over was DAOs. Games claim that they're community-based, and for the most part they are. But the true community-based games, and Splinterlands is one of them, decide, hopefully early, to turn everything over to the players, or at least in terms of decisions of where to go. There's still a gaming company that's making profit because the majority of development and game balance and everything else needs to go through that. But there are also major advantages, not the least of which is that DAOs really dilute responsibility. DAOs are going to be a real regulation problem because there's not one human being that you can put a finger on unless you've got a massive investor. Splinterlands, again, has been awesome for me. They're converting to a DAO. They're issuing their initial DAO token. For them, it's not a security because they're giving them away free in proportion to how many in-game assets you have. So there's something of substantial value being given away for free that suddenly a lot of Splinterlands investors, we have another 10, have a lot of money. Out of nowhere, $70 million at this point have been basically generated out of thin air. It's pretty impressive. It also really helped my investment, my portfolio in Splinterlands. So, are these games sustainable? The answer is the ones that are fun to play, the ones that actually get money coming in due to the fact that they're coming out of people's entertainment budget, they're going to survive because, oddly enough, they're old-style economics. You know, none of this newfangled crypto stuff. You know, it's just straight up money in, money out. And we've got about 10 minutes for questions.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was jumping in. When we talk about the gambling and gaming industry, it's one of those topics with the different subsections that we could spend all day on. I did want to thank you guys for sharing a whole bunch of information. And what remaining time, are there questions from the audience? We have 5 minutes left. Your questions?
8.
8? Okay.
Hi, so just quick question. Would you consider play-to-earn gaming to be a form of gambling then?
So, for the most part, play-to-earn gaming as a player is a skill-based game. Magic the Gathering I consider to be a skill-based game. There is some amount of luck because it's a card game. It's like poker, but fundamentally it's skill-based. Investing in those games is somewhat gambling. Bryant mentioned that his crypto portfolio is a gamble and it isn't working out well for him. For me, I have invested in a bunch of other play-to-earn games, and I have had a success rate substantially better than I expected and substantially better than angel investing. I mean, I've had horrible flops. I've had things that I've gotten out basically even. And in addition to Splinterlands, I have another game that quickly went, up by a factor of 10.
Okay.
So I don't know, is that gambling or not?
It sounds like what you're trying to say is if there's a lot of skill component, then it's not.
I would agree.
So this is for Mark and Connor. You guys both mentioned that none of these games are fun and they're not sustainable, and the AAA games are not playing right now. If Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are all looking at NFTs very seriously right now, trying to figure it out, if those companies made these games fun, engaging, does that fix the sustainability issue? I mean, can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. So I would argue that Splinterlands is exceptionally sustainable. It's going to be around as long as Magic the Gathering is around. They have their economics correct, as much as flowing in money-wise as is going out. If not, in some ways, more money is coming out than going in. But you got to be really careful about that. What's going to happen is the big gaming companies are coming in and are going to be doing this. And because they're already sustainable, their economics aren't going to change. There's probably going to be a little bit more money coming out because, again, blockchain reduces friction for virtually everything. So there's less waste going in, so more money can come out.
All right, thanks, guys.
I have two questions. One, on these platforms, on these platforms or in these platforms, is there a way to verify identity or their age limits that prevent that?
Blockchain games, in general, have no KYC.
Okay.
Splinterlands for the high-level tournaments are now moving in that direction. It's something that's on their roadmap for the next couple of months because there's enough money flowing to identifiable U.S. citizens that they need to do that. And you actually reminded me, I am having to move, or I have moved my blockchain gaming offshore because Congress has made several attempts to pass legislation that would require me to KYC my buying and selling of my necessary game assets. Once any asset goes over $10,000, somehow I personally, or my company, has to successfully convince some gamer from the Philippines or somewhere else that they have to go through US-style KYC. Good luck with that.
Right, right. My second question would be, do you see any of those legacy games like Magic the Gathering coming online and becoming assets like these newer games?
I think that that's the way any intelligent game is going to go. I am, as I said, flabbergasted that Magic hasn't jumped on the bandwagon already. They're entirely electronic now. There's Magic Online. All it takes would be replacing their back-end database with the blockchain and just borrowing someone else's assets market. It would be easy, or at least straightforward, and they've missed out on a tremendous amount of money already.
Thank you.
So I know we're ready for lunch. We have one more question.
I just have a vocabulary. So I'm from Vegas, lived there for 40 years, gambled a lot, poker, everything. So what is an angel investment?
So that's normally from the investment community. Generally, it's people who invest in very early stage projects. So of course, it's a very high risk investment. So most angel investors are counting on only 10 to 20% success rate, but they're expecting 20 plus times returns. So it's basically, again, informed gambling. There's a lot of skill in trying to select companies that you should invest in that early, but it pays off big time if you can take the losses along with the gains.
So you're saying I shouldn't do it?
No, the question is, do you have the money to do it, and can you pick the winners?
We'll see what crypto does.
Well, not crypto. Go for the games.
Go for the games.
Don't
I
invest
always
in
roll the
crypto,
dice, don't
he
worry.
says.
I got it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. This is a very interesting panel. Thank you very much.